Open.
Okay. Those people don't work here.
The radio station is 94.1 KRNA. We broadcast in downtown Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, 94.1 KRNA. James Larson alongside producer Mike, and we are remembering the life of our friend, the Shark. He's known as Gregg Scharnau. He was born on January 30th, 1967, and he passed away yesterday, December 20th, 2016. And I bring into the studio now what I consider probably one of Shark's best friends. Is that safe to say? Jay Parsons, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Shark had a lot of friends, but I kind of was lucky to get to know him kind of on the outside of the radio aspect. For example, his son was a ring bearer at our wedding.
Oh, wow.
I think I first met him when he started working here at KRNA through Tommy.
Yep.
And he lived kitty corner from me. And we used to, back in those days, scrapping young fellows, we used to have a thing called the ghetto barbecue.
Yeah, I know all about the ghetto barbecue. I've been to a few of those.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
So I lived in Wellington Heights, and
that's the ghetto, Mike.
And I had good times there, and occasionally on a weekend we'd have the ghetto barbecue, and the rule was, bring your own meat. We'd fire up the grill and have some drinks
and duck if you have to. If there's a stray bullet that's flying by.
Yeah,
sounds like my kind of party.
He's from Detroit, so he knows all about it.
A little bit later in the night, the fireworks might come out. Maybe we'd fire up the grill again and cook some more meat.
Yeah, I forgot all about the ghetto barbecue. God, I forgot all about that. I want to jump right into the controversial stuff here. Guerrilla radio, what was that all about?
Okay. Well, I don't know if it was ever.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just going to ask, what year was this first?
Yeah.
Let's get a
This
little time
probably would
reference.
have been like 2001.
Something like that,
sure.
Yeah.
And so Guerrilla Radio, we used to, a lot of times on Thursday nights, I think we called it Thursday Night Club.
Drinking club over here?
Yep,
Yeah.
we'd go over to Muddy Waters, and we would, have a few drinks or whatever. And, when... I don't know if you know this, but you probably know this. When DJs are off the air, sometimes they voice their personal gripes about stuff and say, oh man, I wish I could play like this deep cut, or
Sure.
we don't play. Or Shark would always say like, we don't play enough Rush. We need to play more Rush.
Yeah, more Maiden.
Neil Peart is the man.
Yes, he is.
And so he would, it wasn't just him who came up with this idea, but there were. I'm not going to name the other people, but.
Yeah.
After the bar would close, he'd go, "Hey guys, let's do some guerrilla radio." After the
And come back to the studio?
yeah, the Rage
real
Against
quick,
the Machine
yes.
song was in.
Mike, this is Dublin now.
Sure,
it's the
right.
old Dublin. So,
Okay, so
right
it's
over here to the stage. So continue.
Yeah,
Nice
and come
little
over
walk.
here, and there would be songs queued up, for the night or whatever. And
just blow 'em out.
Blow those out.
They'd flip it off, and they'd play whatever they wanted for about an hour. They'd open the phone lines up.
Oh, yeah, phone lines and everything. Yeah.
my.
It was guerrilla radio.
They'd take calls from people. They'd play deep cuts, as Shark used to call them. He goes, "Oh, I love the deep cuts."
Yeah, the deep cuts indeed.
Oh,
we know all
man.
about them.
And someone heard it who I think was probably in radio one night and tipped him off, and so that was the end of guerrilla radio. But there was no actual proof that it ever happened. So that was back in the good old days.
Right,
when,
yeah.
You needed to have a rig to record something.
Yeah, right.
You can just whip your
Exactly.
phone out.
Right. So, what did you know about him as a family man? Because you did get to know his kids and his family and Susan. I didn't get to see that part of it, but what was he like behind the scenes?
Well, even with me, he was still. It was very special. You could tell that his family was his. That was the light of his life. Was his family, and he. In a way, he was kind of selfish. He wanted that all to himself.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
And it worked. They were perfect. We got to go over to their house a couple of times and hang out with our kids and his kids. But I remember when one of the last memories I have of his family was his birthday last year, and we were at a restaurant with him, and I brought my son with me, and they had their whole family there, and his kids are just so articulate and composed and talented. And, of course, everybody says that about their kids.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
but you're
mean,
saying about somebody else's kids.
Right.
And that means a lot, you know?
right. My kids would be like, chewing on crayons or something, and his kids are like, practicing Bach. And we were at the restaurant, and just out of the blue, some lady came up that he didn't even know and told Susan and Gregg, they said, your children are just so well behaved.
Wow.
And they're just so good. I just had to tell you how good a parent you are.
Wow.
Well-mannered kids is a great sign of great parenting. That's exactly, and you being a parent, you know that.
Yeah, and
that sometimes
has
your kids
never happened to me.
Me rarely, but I have seen it. I've heard of this elusive animal. Yeah. Jay, tell us more about your relationship with Gregg in this past year now.
Yeah.
Since he was diagnosed.
He called me up just out of the blue one time, and he told me, he said, and it was just him driving with Susan in the car. I think they were going to one of their first doctor appointments, and he goes, Jay, it's Shark. He goes, yeah, I got some bad news. I got the cancer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about it, and he didn't want to talk about the cancer. He wanted to be a friend. He wanted to be a dad, but he didn't want to talk about it. And I could understand that. And he wanted to keep that kind of to himself. He didn't want to be, he probably viewed it as that he was out of character if he was somebody who was terminally ill.
Right.
He was a very selfless person. He didn't want that attention shined on him. He'd rather have it shined on either his work or his family and things like that. That's where the attention went. He had to his passions. And so he didn't want that. I mean, I don't want to say he didn't want the sympathy, but it was simply a matter of he didn't want that to be the focal point of any conversation. You know, it was like,
no,
because,
right.
Right.
You can tell somebody sum it up pretty quick. I'm going through chemo, and that's what it doesn't.
The fundraiser, he cut it off. He said, thank you, enough is enough. He took the website down when we were doing the Kickstarter thing, whatever that thing is called. Whoever put that together, he's like, all right, enough is enough, and the thing blew up. Thousands of dollars came rolling in. At the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders, they did some fun stuff for me. He says, guys, thank you, but, that's too much. It's the kind of guy he was. He was just a good person,
And it's even more sad that he already beat this thing once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys already know that when he had leukemia and a bout of it, and
That was at age 26.
okay,
And
I think he was maybe in Arizona
I think so.
when he was diagnosed or whatever.
And he went through hell. He told me about it. He went through hell with that.
it was a couple years.
Well, back then, we don't have the drugs we have now. Things were harder. The science has gotten better of taking care of things like that. But he told me he went through absolute hell. And he's a fighter, man. He's a fighter. Just like this pancreatic cancer, a lot of times it kills people in the first month. He lived with this for over a year, I think, Jay.
Yeah.
Because he's a fighter,
Yeah. And and I remember when he did call me and tell me about it, immediately what everybody does is they go Google it up, and pancreatic is one of those where you only discover it when it's in stage 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get a jump start on it. It's already started on you. So I was really bummed about that. But after that, it was one thing I always remember about Shark is that he was spontaneous.
Yeah.
You never knew when he would call or show up. And, one of the things afterwards is I remember Brit Floyd played at the McGrath Amphitheater.
Yes.
And I was already going. I didn't know that Gregg was going. And we're already downtown, and I get a call from him. He's like, Jay, it's Shark. He goes, You going to see the Brit Floyd? I go, yeah, I am. He goes, well, I'm down on 3rd Street. I'll meet you down there. And that was, you would think by talking to him that maybe he just knows what he plays or whatever. But he spent a lot of time on his own listening to, what I said, the deep cuts. He'd listen to the whole album, and he'd dig down and do research about stuff. And like he was psyched that they played See Emily Play, which most people, you talk about Floyd, they don't know what that is. It was
Right.
Sid Barrett's song.
Right,
Yeah, that's early stuff. That's the deep cuts.
That's a deep cut. Yeah.
And I just never knew when I'd be getting a call from him. Like in the afternoon, sometimes I'd be at work, I'd be driving somewhere, and he'd call, and it was like on the air. He'd just call you.
Oh,
cold.
yeah.
out of the air.
On air, yeah, he would do that.
Because he was maybe, he played some Alice in Chains or something, and he wanted to talk about Lane Staley on there to somebody.
Yeah.
We're talking with Jay Parsons, a friend of Gregg Scharnau. Shark passed away yesterday, unfortunately, at the age of 49 of pancreatic cancer. 94.1 KRNA is bringing a tribute to his life today. And Jay, I wanted to ask you one thing. His kids still relatively young, and this is very sad and hard for them, I'm sure. And what would you like to say to their kids that they might comfort them? Being a parent and your families being close, what would you say to them about their dad?
I would ask them to realize the value in some of Gregg's personal traits of, not taking life too seriously, being spontaneous and being able to enjoy things, at the drop of a hat. Don't always draw out this long forecast of how things should be. Just kind of take it where you want to go.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think his first round with leukemia, I didn't know him before that, but I got a feeling that after he persevered through leukemia, that he had a certain lust for life after that.
Yeah.
I think that added value to him. I think he realized just how special it was then, more than like what I could know.
Well, and that's a great point, and more than I could know. We take life for granted every single day, and Shark realized he could have died at age 26, and he made it through that, and I think that made him strong.
And it sounds exactly that Shark, Gregg, and Susan have raised their kids with that kind of stoicism, that kind of spontaneity, that kind of inquisitiveness about life and learning. So one more parting shot, Jay. If you could tell us, if you could say to Gregg a goodbye, how would you say goodbye to Gregg?
Oh, God, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
I don't know. If I knew Rush better, it would probably be a Rush lyric.
I'm going to play a Maiden song for him today, too. We have to get some Maiden. You know how much he loved Maiden.
Yes,
he loved Rush, Maiden, and he actually liked Incubus and Tool. Is there any other bands I'm forgetting? And we'll get back to your...
He'd always talk about Alice in Chains, but I always get the feeling it was more of the soap opera of the band.
Of the band, making fun of the drugs and all that. So
yeah, and he loved that about the bands. I mean, he loved the music, but he also loved the soap opera aspect of it.
He did,
Pearl Jam, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
The Rush song "Time Stands Still" from "Hold Your Fire" talks about seasons going fast, nights getting colder, kids growing up, and it doesn't mean to slow down as much as it means just enjoy the moment that you're in.
Yeah,
to me, that's what Shark was all about. It's not that I need it to slow down; it's going at the speed it's going to go. Nothing I can do to change that, but if time could just stand still for me at this moment and make me realize and appreciate this moment, that's the kind of guy he was to me, philosophically speaking.
And if there's one thing I could say to him right now, if he was standing here right in front of me, I'd say, donuts, donuts, donuts. You remember that. It's an inside joke, but New Year's Eve, donuts.
Did you tell the story about the donuts?
I haven't. I'm going to save that for next hour.
Okay.
But yeah, Crazy Tommy and
there.
donuts. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, Jay.
Jay,
And
thanks
speaking
so
of
much,
donuts,
guys.
we have a full 30-pack here that Mike McGrath stopped in. It's Jay Parsons, one of Gregg Scharnau's, the Sharks' best friends. We'll be right back. It's KRNA. The donut story, I don't even know if I'll tell it because it's
Not really about.
it's not a